law. There's a copy of it next to the board in the back of the room. We have the public comments this morning. Okay. Mr. Scott.
All right.
Good morning.
Make it a great day.
There you go. I like
We have to talk. I think we have some new business on the agenda. We have some form issues in April as it pertains to some of our board members not being able to make that. So we're going to ask the board to see if we can push the meeting, the board meeting back a week. It's on the agenda, so how do you think about that prior to?
Conveniently, April is a 5-week month anyway, 5 Thursday month. So we will still be having an April meeting, which is going to be 5th Thursday instead of the 4th.
Staff is we're going to be setting up meetings with the staff and board on various properties relative to some of the things we talked about last month. That we had some discussions on office space consolidation and then probably we're going to ask the board to carve out some time so they can board and staff so they can look at various properties throughout the city. It's going to happen in April too, so we'll definitely either do this all as a group or in 2 groups, so that you can keep your calendars open over the next 30 days. I am on the ballot to be the general secretary for the states of Nebraska, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, Michigan, Ohio. So if you guys get a ballot, if you see my name on there, please check that off. I am lobbying here. And everybody in the room, I think, is going to get a ballot, so I will be in your dead if I can move forward on that. I'm joking, folks. Hopefully I've done enough good things in this region to warrant being the secretary.
So you're not just going to collect it with a ballot, fill it out for them, and send it back in?
I do have 6 ballot sheets. So we'll see.
Just a reminder, as you set up things for next month as far as the board's concerned, if you have more than 4, you got to publicize it.
Yeah, we're probably going to do 2 groups just to guard against those some sunshine law issues. The PHA plan was approved by HUD. That plan, some of these contents of the plan did include the demolition of Southside Terrace. Brian, you want to give a 30-second update on what's the next steps relative to what we have to do?
For the Southside, we have to have the city do an environmental review of the site. That will take upwards of 6 months. So they have started that process. And so that'll probably work out. We're going to start working on the relocation plan and get that going here soon. Next month, I'm told that we'll be asking for approval to start working on an actual application. There'll be a lot of things that will be happening in the background. Also have a meeting with the residents as well as a public hearing.
There are a lot of moving parts to this, so we're probably going to re-engage the community and telling them what's going to happen, timeline, and we're going to gather input. I know we had some rigorous discussion in our committee meetings on this. We just want to let the full board know. We did get that initial approval, and it's full speed ahead on that. Excuse me. As you guys know, Nell's also in the rehab facility, so you got an update on that?
She actually was just moved to neighbor Chris, which is right over 66 of Maple. She was moved there last Friday. Her room number was initially at 104, but they changed it so we can get an update and pass on, let you know what the room number was, the phone number.
2 more things, folks. You have this in front of you. As you know, we partnered with Methodist on CNA, so residents can get training certification. It's my understanding, based on some information we got yesterday, that those folks, if they graduate, they will be guaranteed jobs and employment. So thanks to Sal and staff on that. And finally, we have two of our staff members here today who went on the Selma trip last month, or this month, I'm sorry, a couple weeks ago. And I wanted to give them a brief presentation on how it went and some of their experiences. So Gainey and Tabitha, do you want to come over real quick?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I would like to say good morning to the chair and vice chair of the OHA board and the rest of the board members and the OHA staff. My name is Gainey Clark and I'm with the inspection department, and this is Miss Tabitha. We both took that trip down to Selma. I don't know what's going to come up on the screen. I haven't had a chance to see it, but I can fly by the seat of my pants. The thing is that I would like to just share with all of y'all, 1 minute if you don't mind. This trip was something that Tabitha, the children, experienced, that it did something, I think, to their spirit, because you have to really feel, see, and endure racism to really get the brunt of what racism is in America. A lot of folks want to talk about the bridge itself, but I don't give much credence to the bridge. We want to leave that off because the bridge is named after a segregated, racist person. I want to talk about the blood, the tears, the beatdown of the bridge itself and across the bridge. The bridge was just a vessel to get people across. And when we was there and experienced what we saw, and I was telling the kids, and by me being from Alabama, seeing colored water fountain, white water fountain, I was able to expound a little bit more than maybe their parents here who've never been there, who pick cotton, chop cotton, hold cotton, been there, done that. My mother used to take a surf bucket and put our food in it and take us to the cotton patch, and we used to sit on the tree. So we heard all of these things. When these things was going on in '65, we didn't have a TV in Alabama, but we all went to one of the houses there, and we saw the actual beatdown of these people. And what I told Tabitha and I told the rest, you know, we couldn't go to school, we didn't have a faucet where you could turn the water on and get water out of. We had to go to the well. Everybody know the well? You could pull your water up that way. But there was places we couldn't go unless there was 2 or 3 with each other, because of the people who had the ability to do something to us. And I stressed that to these guys here when we were there. It's not the individual person that you have to worry about. And I told KTV, Channel 3 that when they did the interview. Racism is not the person that you deal with individually. It's the system that you deal with. That was a racist system in '65 and in the United States of America that created this. And when you look at it and you see it from what it meant, you had judges, lawyers, and I took a picture, I don't know if she did, of the Selma bond, where you had to go there to be bonded out of jail. All of those things were stacked on top of each other, but the system allowed all of those things to take place. All of those things to take place. And that's the same thing that the DOJ found in Ferguson, Missouri, up to this day in 2015. The system. That's what we all have to do. Not look at these pictures and get emotional and talk about what we do. We as individuals have to change things in our own world. Now that picture right there where you see the white guy and the white lady, those are people who are fighting right now in Washington, D.C. against the Voting Rights Act to get it. They're trying to overturn it. This young man here, elderly gentleman, Mr. Robinson, he was from North Carolina. You can see the kids just eating every word he said up, because he was talking about some of the things that I just talked about, which he's older than me, about what actually happened in that time, how down, what he went through. And I'm telling you, those kids were so attentive you couldn't hear a pin drop. And that was in the hotel where they served breakfast at. And this is the actual museum itself, where we stopped at, and that's the actual march of people. The white guy on the left with the crutches, he had lost his leg. And what we have to stress when we talk about racism, it wasn't just black people, it wasn't just white people, there was all races of people that was trying to make a difference. And a lot of white people lost their lives, a lot of black people lost their lives, because what they was fighting for was injustice. And those are the things that we saw, and I tried to stress to the kids when we was in Selma, these things are real. And we went in, I don't know if Captain had a picture of that, that's where y'all walking down the street, and that's the church, that's Brown Chapel, AME Church. That's where everything started at. That's where the march to Selma first began with Reverend Jose Williams and the rest, Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King, Jesse Jackson, and John Lewis, Congressman out of Georgia. All these people started there, and they marched across that bridge. Now, what I want to stress to you here, and Tabitha, I want her to get in here too, what you see there on the street, and I want you to keep in mind, they say it was 80 to over 100,000 people there. Do you see that long stretch of canvas there? Wasn't nobody stepping on that. I found that to be, it was a respectful, it was like a shrine. People were signing it, they had pins all up and down there, our kids signed it, and it was just a respectful thing. And one other thing I want to stress to you, you see all the people there, just like I'm talking here, which I talk loud anyway, but Tabitha and I could talk to each other from here to there, and we could hear each other. That's the respect that I think, everybody was there for one reason and one reason only. No violence we saw, no craziness, no nothing. That right there picture is John Lewis, that's at the foot of the bridge. And that's the memorial park for the civil rights people who walked that day, and they are mobilized, they are, immortalized there at that park. There's 3 statues there, 2 women, 2 men, total of 4. Well, the 2 women is on the same statue, and John Lewis and Reverend Jose Williams on another. That's the bridge that we were standing on as we were getting ready to take a trip across there. There was such a feeling, and I want to share one thing, and I want Catherine to get in here too. But see, you asked the wrong person to talk about something that means so much to me. And like I said, a lot of folks like to talk on the racist thing, they talk surface. Racism, and when you endured it, when you lived it, like I have, coming out of Alabama, is very personal. A lot of folks don't take it that way. Like I said, they just talk about it because it's something up here. Well, we can talk about it. But when you get to talk about African American pregnancy and all of those kind of things, kids having babies out of wedlock, and you can get with white folks and they want to tell you that, they'll tell you that all day long. But when you get to talk about the meat, the crust, and all that stuff, well, I gotta go. I don't, well, it's, why you gonna bring up all that stuff? That's the problem. We can talk about these things, Selma and the rest, but you gotta have a legitimate conversation about it and say that these things happen. Do you understand one thing about this? Those police officers, those judges, those lawyers, all of those people that was under the umbrella of the United States of America, do you know that they all retired and got pensions, benefits from taxpayers across the country and lived their life around it while these people struggled and they killed people? Do you know when they find a German or a person with the Jews who have committed these atrocities against Jews, they find those people and they extradite them back to Germany, or they take them out of the United States because they said it was a crime against humanity. These people had a chance to retire. These people had a chance to get a check. And Sunday night, we get back to the hotel. Do you know what they had on the news? KKK distributed flyers of a rally in Dothan, Alabama, which I know where it's at. Please come. I don't mind. I'm saying? That's what the other thing. But we had a good time. Tabitha talked to me about some things. She said, Coach Gaynor, this is awesome. You just do these kind of things. I said, but Tabitha, you can find yourself. You can do some things. The only thing you have to do is just dig down within yourself. You work for a beautiful young man, he'll sail or something. Get with him. Y'all can come up with income. Do these things. You have to make a difference. She wanted to find out what she could do. And I don't know whether she liked what I was saying or she didn't like what, but I think she did. But I said, just get with people and tell people what you want to do, how you want to do it. That's all you have to do. And be sincere in what you do and how you do it. And I think her eyes and the kids' eyes were just open to some things that they never would or could see before other than TV. I had this one kid that come out of the video thing that we saw at Sean. And it's a 25-minute video of Selma, the beatdown, the killing, the massacre. And I asked him, because I quizzed him on things, which he can attest to that. I wasn't an expert knowledge on racism, but I knew what I was talking about those issues. Now Sean asked me, I said, well, no, I asked him, I said, well, how did you guys feel when you saw what you saw on that video? I said, I was mad. And he said, that's what he said, I was mad. I said, well, wait a minute, hold. Anger gets you nowhere if you don't know how to generate it. You don't know how to focus it. It gets you nowhere. You can't go out there and fight society. That's why they got police, they got army, they got everybody, and they will kill you. I said, but here's what you do with the anger that you feel there as you get older. You will find out in your life, do you want to become a menace to society, or do you want to become a help in society? Those are the things that you do as you grow. You will find out within yourself what life, what direction you want to go in. So I want you now to channel this into something positive, that when you see wrongdoing to others, speak up, speak out. Don't sit back and hold back and say, oh, I don't see that. And you have to worry about a job, you have to worry about something else. When you know it's wrong, say something. I'm sorry to take up so much of your time, but I'll give it to Tabitha and she can add a little bit more to it.
Well, I'll just move. I just want to thank the board and the organization as a whole for recognizing the value of this experience for these kids. I think the main takeaway is, it was really about inspiring greatness, and while they may not have yet understood the significance of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, I'm sure they will when they're able to utilize it. I think they understood the significance of that moment in 2020. So that's really what I took away from my thinking.
See, that's why I talked so long, because I knew she would sugarcoat it. Do you guys got any questions, anything like that for us, anything that you want to?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Thank you both very much. Actually, thank you both very much for going, taking the show and taking the time to stand up for us. Much appreciated by the board, staff, and agency. Next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. We have 12 items. Anyone have anything they want to remove from the consent agenda?
I would make a move to approve the consent agenda as presented for resolution, 1 through 12.
We have a motion, a second. Roll call. Commissioner Bradley.
Yes.
Commissioner Bergo. Yes. Commissioner Watson. Yes. Commissioner Smith. Yes. Reports and discussion items, budgets and financials. Mr. Heath. Michael.
Morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to do the financials for the month of February and year-to-date. Figures, we'll start with public housing. For the month, we had revenues of $1,096,000. Against expenses of $1,113,000. We also had transfers out to Ohio of $42,000, which is a normal procedure, for a net loss for the month of $60,000. You might notice that we did not have transfers in from HUD on our operating portion of the capital fund, which is 20% money we get from them. Those monies will be coming, but they're not reflected yet. So,
Michael, can you remind me, how much is that?
It is $577,000 for the year, so each month it's roughly $48,000. But we get it as a lump sum. We'll give you money.
Did I read somewhere that HUD gave additional capital improvement monies to the number of housing authorities across the nation? Is that last year?
No, it's, if you read FSF, housing authorities have received their family self-sufficiency monies over the course of the last couple of weeks, and elected officials like to that's probably what you were saying. There hasn't been any, there's actually a reduction in capital fund operations monies that we got, which in turn affects the capital fund portion. So we're about 4% down than what we got.
The next section is the Section 8 operating. For the month, we had revenues of $2,430,000 against expenses of $2,475,000. So we're over year-to-date on revenue, by $155,000. And then any of those dollars that we get in, we use for the program. So we're over on revenue 155, and we expended over 175. So year-to-date, we're a little over 20,000 over. Next item is Section 8 admin. For the month, we had revenues of $187,000 against expenses of $204,000 for a net loss of roughly $16,000.
Just so everybody's clear with respect to public housing, our proration of how much we're going to receive from that is about 83%. I think we got 87.5 last year percent. So Congress had made that determination in December, late December. So we're looking at a 4% reduction in public housing operating money. On the Section 8 admin side, we're also looking at a 4% reduction in administrative fees that we're eligible for, and that went from about 76% to 71.5%, give or take. So it's probably going to be a tough year for the program.
In the meantime, why don't you talk just briefly about what we're doing on the public housing side from the...
On the public housing side, we met with the staff and their maintenance supervisors to show them their 2014 results against the 2015 budget so that they would have an insight as to what they have expended and what they're allowed to spend in 2015. So it was a step in the direction toward estimating at the AMP level. And then beginning with the February or the March financial statements, we'll present those to the board at the AMP level, not only in this consolidated fashion, but at the AMP tower level, if you will. Quarterly at the board level and on a monthly basis to the staff. So we can see where they stand.
As any, if you look at our income, we know what our income is pretty fixed. Our expenses are all pretty fixed. The variables we do have are utilities, which we've been in a high time for utilities, and then maintenance expenses, turning of the units and that type of thing. So we can't do anything about the utilities, and we can't do anything about the weather. So we're really taking a look at the service and maintenance expense. So.
And it was a good meeting with each of those groups, and from that, the takeaway is we're going to be looking at ways to possibly consolidate some of the services and some of the spending to get economies of scale due to the reduction in money from both.
Just so everybody's clear, we're not talking substantial amounts of money. We're essentially turning over stones now to, as Scott talked about, our expenses for the most part are fixed. As you can look at our income and expense reports. And utilities, as Scott said, and maintenance services and contracts really are our only two areas that we can make some headway as it pertains to reducing some of our expenses. So everything else is basically constant. So
The next section is the COCC, central office. For the month, we had revenues of roughly $299,000 against expenses of $279,000 for a net income for the month of $20,000. This one makes money because we're able to charge the programs, the management, bookkeeping, frontline service fees for our oversight of those programs. For Ohio, for the month, we had revenues of $101,000, transfers in from public housing of $43,000, so total sources of $144,000 for the month. Money's in against expenses of $118,000 for a net income of $26,000. Moving on to payables, we've got the payables listing there for the month. The only item that is beyond the 30-day is Sherman Associates $440 item, which gets paid for through capital funds, and we can't pay that until we get the monies in from capital fund. So that's what happened, bumped over, it was over 30. Otherwise, everything is current within the 30-day period. We've got the normal big players with MED, OPPD, and then this month we also had the expenditures for architect's offices and Ronco construction for the anticipated projects that we're working on late in the year.
This future construction specialty.
Future construction, that one.
Steve, what do they do?
They've done the roof renovations for us, and they also have a contract to do some of the roofs up the Spencer Housing.
We just approved the contract or not?
And then Dell Marketing was computers, we bought 18 computers for staff. So other than that, the other ones are normal expenditures that we have. On external financial reporting, we submitted the unaudited FDS with HUD at the end of February, which is the due date. And then the outside auditor, Jamie Boyd, began their field work and audit work on the taxpayer properties. Taxpayer property audits are complete for Noah, Farm, Crown, One, and Chambers. The audits are done and the tax returns are done. So that's, we're done March 18th last year, July 21st, so 4 months ahead of schedule with that work. So things went well. They're pleased with the information that we had. Finally, examined and reconciled. So clean audit opinions on all 4 of those. Yes.
And will those reports come to the board?
Those reports, when they submit those, we can provide those to the board as well.
Michael, can you just briefly go over your financials? This is the first time
Sure.
you've had them.
You also have there the the December final. These are very briefly. For public housing, we had, for the month, we had revenue of $1,094,000 against expenditures of $1,099,000. Transfers out of $45,000. We showed a loss for the month of $68,000, due in large part to we had a casualty loss at Spencer for $48,000. $48,000 of $68,000 is due to that Spencer loss. On Section 8 operating, we had revenues of $2,488,000 against expenses of $2,300,000. So we actually had net income for the month of $187,000. A little misleading. A lot of that income is due to the reconciling work that we did during the year to clean up all the bank accounts that needed to be cleaned up from the prior year. So all of that cleanup work, which was in conjunction with discussions we had with the auditors, flushed a whole bunch of old stuff that had been booked erroneously and very early 2013. So all of that cleanup flushed through so that we have clean financials for this year. So we wound up with $187,000 for Section 8 documents. Section 8 admin, we had revenues of $255,000 against expenses of $168,000. So that section also had income of $73,000 for the month. Again, some of the expenses were trued up for review around for the audit purposes. Going to the COCC, we had revenues of $620,000, operating expenses of $840,000 for a net loss of $260,000 per month. In this case, those true up of the bank reconciliations resulted in administrative expenses being $502,000, of which $413,000 of that was cleanup of the bank records. A lot of things got booked, like I said, early on in 2013. Erroneously, it wasn't backed up, et cetera, and those things all needed to be cleaned up and flushed out of there.
So these are items that were booked in the wrong accounts, or were booked when they should not have been booked?
They were both. They were booked and they should not have been booked. Previous accounts that have been here that are no longer here, we went through, there was no substantiation for those, no backup, booked to wrong accounts, and proper accounting, generally accepted accounting principles, you have to have substantiation for expenses and recording and such, so those have to all be flushed out. So it's truly cleanup work through year end. And then for HIO for December, we had revenue of $104,000 against expenses of $160,000. We also had to transfer in of $45,000. So total sources of $149,000 against expenditures of $160,000. So we have a net loss of $11,000. And a little bit of the bank rec cleanup work there. So all in all,
Well, with all due respect to Ohio, they actually made almost $2,000.
Yeah.
So for the record, the errors and the cleanup, the review showed no misuse, no misappropriation. This was just a matter of, not to insult the former people, but a matter of ignorance and knowledge of how to make proper accounting entries.
Misunderstanding of allowable expenses and the booking of such expenses and booking those expenses directly against cash, which you do not do. So those had to be flushed out of there. We had a good conversation with the auditors a year ago through the audit process, and it was not an audit point, but they definitely need to be cleaned out, and that's what the staff did in 2014. And all the bank recs are completely reconciled up through, actually up to February of this year, which a year ago, it might have been 1 or 2 months worth of bank recs that haven't been. So it was just thorough effort.
And Mike has worked hard with this, and he's got some new staff members there that really understand the public housing accounting, and so I feel really comfortable with absolutely a clean audit this year, and so we've got our arms around this whole thing.
Any other questions?
And also financials for Michael. So now we'll move on to asset management. Reactive question still?
Excuse me?
They're up to their ears in green.
Yeah.
We had Southside inspections yesterday. We think our scores are a little better, significantly better than one last year. For the month of February, our vacancy rate was 1.59. It looks to be very good. You go to the next page. Our occupancy percentage is 98.6, which is close to 99, which is very, very good. If you go to the next page, we have some, our delinquency reporting rate is 99.2% from HUD. I would imagine that these recertifications have been completed and in the system. We've done, over the course of the first 2 months on the leasing front, we've done pretty well. It's going back to what Commissioner Watson was talking about in relation to some of those cleanup items we were doing. Sometimes, as you folks know, whenever a unit gets leased, the central office is able to collect a management fee, an asset management fee, an IT fee, and some other related fees. With respect to our computer system, if we report that we've leased up 2,650 units, finance finance has to essentially book that, those number of units and then the corresponding dollar amount. Sometimes that happens before public housing actually gives them the final numbers. So some of the stuff that Commissioner Watson was talking about had to do with timing. And given the transition that we had in finance during the 2013, it just never got cleared up. So, and it's the same on the Section 8 side. If Joan Anderson leases up 4,000 units, finance essentially for management fee purposes draws down X amount of units, and we'll just say 75,000. Well, at some point in time before the end of that fiscal year, it has to be audited and essentially reconciled between how many units you leased up relative to how much in management fees that you can earn. That just did not happen. So when we talk about cleanup and items, whereas we're taking and allocating and drawing down the correct amount of fees, this is standard in our industry, and we had to clean it up based on feedback from our fee account for allowed as well as the auditors. Do I have any questions?
Does anyone have anything else on asset management? If not, we'll move on to Section 8. Morning, John.
Good morning, Commissioners. You have my monthly report. If you have any questions, I would be glad to answer them. Just wanted to let you know that we are continuing to issue vouchers. We issued 50 in the month of February, and we're also scheduled to issue 50 in the month of March. So we'll continue to do that throughout the year until we get notification of funding or something else happens, but we're going to continue. And we'll probably be opening our waiting list sometime in May or June, except 750 additional applications for the Section 8 waiting list. Any questions?
Does anyone have any questions or comments for John? Okay. I completely understand. Next item on the agenda is housing in Omaha. We have before you the minutes of the Board of Directors meeting for Ohio from March 6th. If anyone has any questions on that. If not, we'll move on to support department reports, beginning with capital development construction. Morning, Ryan.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have my report in front of you. As we kind of discussed outside, well, obviously, we kind of try to be focusing the majority of my attention. There's a lot of moving parts into that, so I'll continue to keep you updated as we move forward. Like I said, next month we'll bring you a resolution to formally get started on the application, but we've already started on track on having those discussions internally. So.
Anything else for Ryan? Move on to procurement.
Morning,
Morning,
Commissioners.
Steve.
You've got my report in front of you on the bill for any questions you might have. I'd just like to let you know, if you didn't hear, the Secretary of HUD last Thursday announced a whole big new push on Section 3, which is something OHA has always been strong on, but it's been hard to implement. Most exciting thing for me is what he announced. There's a registry, a national registry for public housing businesses. And I think that'll be a big help for everybody communicating and making those public residents available to contact the city. So I'm really excited about that.
And I assume, or as you kind of go through this, you work with Commissioner Gray or the city. As you know, they're trying to not do something similar, but we had this conversation last month. But I think any assistance you continue to give the councilmen as they work through that would be much appreciated. Or information you can share, etc. So we do things here on a federal level, there are things on local levels a little bit different. But I know they can use any advice, suggestions, or assistance you can provide, and I'm sure they're much appreciated.
Sure. Many of their dollars could be impacted by the new regulations.
Yeah. Thank you. Is anyone have anything else for Steve? If not, we will go to Human Resources. Good morning, Gail.
Good morning, Commissioners. The primary report in front of you. I just want to thank everyone for passing the personnel policy revisions. I think there's a few revisions in it that go a long way towards improving morale at the agency since 2011. And we started implementing some changes in how we comes and talking to staff. I just want to say thank you. If you have any other questions about the staff and the report, I'll be happy to answer them.
No other questions for Gail? We'll go on to Family Community Services. Good morning, Sal.
Good morning, Commissioner. You have my report in front of you. I'll be glad to answer any question. Also, I did attach the detailed charge to information again for this month. So if you have any question, I'll be glad to answer.
Anyone have any questions or comments for Sal? How are things going, Charles Drew?
Going well. Going well so far. They have just hired a new public housing coordinator. Her name is Sue. She actually, her expertise is actually lowering the homelessness. She actually runs the Charles Drew Clinic through the homelessness. She just started about a month ago, so she going to making some changes.
And we're going to have staff at the event
Oh,
tomorrow.
I was going to say it's tomorrow, isn't it?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes. We actually, intake will be out and also for my staff will be out to assist them to the application, yes.
Because you had 2 people last year, they kind of got slammed.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's project,
Homeless Connect.
Homelessness connection.
at Creighton, is it 8:30 to?
Yeah, from 8:30 to 3:30.
Yeah.
If you're not doing anything, just come down to that. It's amazing
That it is.
event, and you would not believe what you see. So I appreciate the OHA staff. Pam and I, and my daughter have been involved with this for 8 years, I think, and it's quite a program. But and there's a lot of good things happening. Of course, we usually have about 800 homeless people who come to Creighton. Our goal every year is to try to get about 50 of those out of the system, and we've kind of been hitting that. And actually, last year was kind of exciting. We had 2 volunteers that were actually were homeless the previous year. We got them out of the cycle. They actually volunteered and were there last year helping, so that's kind of exciting.
And I know the dental school goes and provides.
Creighton provides, an individual can come in, when they first come in, we feed them, and you assign them a person, because if you just open the doors and say, come on in, they'll wander around and wander back out. So you assign a person to everybody that comes in. So you have to have about 500 volunteers just to handle the volume coming in and taking the time, because for them to be there, it could be an hour, could be an hour and a half to 2 hours. So that individual is with them the whole time. So we feed them, they can get a haircut, they can also do all their dental work, they can do a medical checkup, eye exam. We've got all the social services there.
The court system is there.
Yeah.
But
All the support. Now, you do have people that just come there to eat, and we pick them up, and that's what they do. But it's interesting, last year, in the face of homelessness is always portrayed as the 35 to 50-year-old white male. Well, last year, we had a tremendous amount of single females between 25 to 35. And if you want to see what the face of homelessness is in Omaha, all you have to do is come to that event. Because we have the kind of the chronics in the morning that they come there to eat, get their haircut, right? But then families start to come, and then like we had a lot of single females last year. And so it's changing, but it's interesting. And all you have to do is walk in there, walk around to see the people, and you can see what the face of homelessness is in Omaha. But it's a great event.
Yeah, Sal mentioned the courts, the city prosecutor's office sends people
Yes.
as well. But just to be clear, they do it in an attempt to, they clear up warrants. If people that have outstanding warrants, they will
Yes.
take them, process them through the system, get rid of the warrant, and work with them to get that off, so that they don't have, don't have somebody who's homeless who's also trying to avoid, interaction with city officials or city police. to get those warrants cleaned up. So it sounds like a bad thing, but it actually is helping.
It's very.
And just one thing I'd like to add, I know the housing authority, we do take a lot of application, and you
Yeah.
probably want to take this thing back to them. One of the barriers is, once we get those applications in, it's hard to get in contact with them.
I know, and that's the biggest issue, address and ID
Yeah.
for these people.
Yeah.
You know, everybody,
So it's
you know,
tough.
one of the biggest things we always address, and the homeless people come, that they need IDs. When that's a difficult
Yeah.
situation,
That's the
because they don't
biggest
have an
barrier.
address. You know, they may have, you know, Santa Francis house, but that's about it. And then, we've always tried, being in the banking industry, I always tried to have somebody there to do that. Well, banks look at these people and say, well, they don't have, you know, permanent address, and you have to do all the verification and all that type of thing too. So, but it's a great program, and I know OHA is a big part of it, so we thank salespeople.
Thank you, Sal. Does anyone have anything else or any other questions or comments for Sal? Now we'll move on to public safety.
Chris isn't here today, folks. If you look at the crime-related OHA incident reports, it's February, we had 31. As you know, it was a pretty cold month. We got 47 for January, which is spiked a little bit. But this agency is not political, just so everybody knows. We try to stay out of the, you know, the press and stuff that happens, you know, in the paper. But yesterday, Sal and Judy and I went to an Omaha 360 meeting, and the chief of police had a presentation on the use of force and some of the perceptions or misperceptions that happen in this community. Last night, there was a piece on Fox News, national news, as well as at Omaha World Herald about one of our elected officials weighing in and discussing issues with the police departments. Judy and Sal could talk about the statistics that the chief of police laid out to this 360 meeting, but yeah, I'm gonna put my neck out here and say that probably not real helpful when you talk about community and police relations when leaders, you know, make provocative statements, and that doesn't help this agency, and you know, ultimately, I don't think it contributes to moving forward. So I was a little, you know, I was in law enforcement in a prior career, and it's tough out there, quite frankly. So when you know, if you're asked, obviously we don't take a position, but the police have a role, our residents have a role, and the community has a role. And you know, it's tough out there, and my staff can attest to that. So that's kind of all I'll say. You know, Judy and Sal want to talk about some of the statistics that they heard yesterday relative to the police, feel free. But I don't know, yesterday was a tough day.
Just one thing that we, oh, sorry.
There was an article that identified Omaha as one of the least safe places to be gun violent. And the statistics that the police chief reviewed yesterday demonstrate that Omaha doesn't have that reputation as a city. Our statistics are, we are a safer city. Our crime statistics are much lower, violent crime much lower than Kansas City. I was impressed, and police community relationships is an interest of mine. And I was very impressed with the transparency the chief provided and with his willingness to talk about the tough issues. And he made some very, very good points about where Omaha places its resources, where they, and one of the most telling statements that he made, that to me gives an idea of the respect and the understanding of the community is he said, why should we throw a blanket and gather up everybody who doesn't need to be gathered up when it is a very few who are creating problems? And that says to me that in this city, we are looking at the hard things
And we have a police department that is targeting where the violence is at its source. And I, for one, was really, really impressed by the willingness to address diversity within the police force and the willingness to address it, not just as the representatives of the police force on the street, but the representatives of the community, that our police force should resemble our community, not just on the streets, but all the way up to the top. This is, I was very heartened. But again, the statement about why should we throw a blanket and gather our people, that we have no business gathering us. And the statement of where we direct our resources. It was a very proud moment to be in Omaha.
Chief Schmatter has done a wonderful job of being very open, very transparent, very extensive communication with the community, with the press, with the public in general. And I think everyone has been very pleased since he has become chief in the way he has handled things, particularly because we've had some challenging events in the last year since he has ascended to chief of police, and I think he's handled them tactfully, he's handled them honestly, transparently, and very well. He was very open. I know just from personal experience in working where I do now, that he is very hands-on. He's very he spends the time personally to understand what's going on and meet with people. He's his door's open. He's been a great addition. Okay, thank you. Do we have anything else on public safety? Now we will move on to legal. Brian, are you doing the first report?
Yes, and you have my report. I'm sorry it wasn't included in the board packet, but this was one of those things where I realized I should probably do a report. So going forward, I'll use, this is the format that George Code used in the past, and I'll continue to use that. Just speaking in generalities, I've gotten caught up on the litigated files and have been working with George on a few of those, sort of comparing the office paperwork. Also continuing with some of the other legal items that we attention that have piled up on the desk while and not had legal counsel. I think everything's fairly well summarized there. If you have any questions, I think you have as we're discussing again.
There's a few there you've inherited that, fortunately, will tell you will probably be on your report for many, many months to come.
Yes.
Anything else? Does anyone have questions for Brian on the legal report?
Collections were awesome this month.
Yep. Okay, nothing further. We have new business. We have 2 items, and those are the 2 items that were on the revised agenda. One is our annual commissioner ethics statements. Last year, when we executed ethics statements for the board, we agreed as a board to re-execute those statements on an annual basis. And then, with all due respect to Judy and to Brian, I kind of relied on George to make sure we kept some of these things in track, and I think you guys are now finally getting up on that. So, for the board members that are here, you've been given your ethics statement. Please execute that and return it to Nicole. I appreciate that. Does anyone have any questions or comments on that? If not, the last item is with our the 4th Thursday of the month is generally when we have our meetings. April is a 5 Thursday month. We have 2 issues with the April meeting set for the 22nd or 23rd. One being, because of the way that the Thursdays fall, we will not have March financials by the 23rd. That's one issue. The second issue is Commissioner Bradley, myself, and I'm going to assume Commissioner Berglund will be in the hospital, if not with a small child. So therefore, we have a minimum of 3 that will not be able to be in attendance. In light of Commissioner Winford's health issues, the odds of us not having a full quorum are probably very likely. So we are asking the board to agree to move the meeting back 1 week to the 5th Thursday of the month, so we will still be within the month of April. On that Thursday, the 30th, We're going to assume that Commissioner Bergman will still not be in attendance. However, both Commissioner Bradley and I will be back and be able to be in attendance, so we should not have quorum issues if we move the meeting back a week. So I would ask or entertain a motion to move our April meeting.
Second.
A motion and a second. Roll call.
Commissioner Bradley?
Yes.
Commissioner Bergman? Yes. Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Terry?
Yes. That is the end of our agenda. We don't have any reason for executive session today, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion. Oh, go ahead.
Motion from Commissioner Watson, and a second from Commissioner Bradley. I'll go with that. Roll call.
Commissioner Bradley?
Yes.
Commissioner Bergman? Yes. Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Terry?
Yes. Thank you all very much. Today's the 20th, I realize I'm off on my other case. 26th.
Alrighty.
You're going down now, or you got